What difference does it make if this was once upon a time? You supply the stereo and I'll supply the rhyme. I'm aided by machinery in hopes to reach your mind. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Just as loud and clear you hear my voice come through the air. Funny, but it's close as I can come to really being there. Frozen in this signal are fingerprints and messages. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Okay, St. Mike's. That's a favorite song of mine by a guy named Mark Hurd, who's no longer living. He wrote it, it's called Remarks to Mr. McLuhan. And he's referring to the pioneer media scholar named, media studies scholar named Marshall McLuhan, who I'll get to in a moment. I like it because it seems kind of maybe appropriate and a little bit ironic, but it also gets us thinking a little bit about the promise and the perils of media, which I want to talk about today. And I'm referring especially to the media torrent, which is the enormous amount of images and sounds that in which we are awash largely in this culture. And so I want to talk about some of those promises and especially about some of the perils that accompany those promises. And I'm going to use this term from a favorite author of mine named Todd Gitlin that he calls the media torrent. And I want you to see some of the perils connected with the media torrent that I call unintended consequences. That's a sociological term, or a term that sociologists use a lot anyway, that sensitizes us to the ways in which policies, but also technologies, carry consequences of which we're often not aware and that are certainly not intended by those who invent or promote those technologies. Marshall McLuhan, for whom the song was written that I began with, had a saying in which he said, "The media is the message. The media is the message," by which he was trying to get us to understand that media shape the message and the messenger. We're accustomed to thinking of technology as a tool. We really like to tell ourselves that technology is a tool. You can use it for good or bad. It's by itself, it's just neutral. But that's not actually the case, and with media it's especially true. Technologies of all kinds act back on the user of them. A good way to think about this is the microwave. The microwave was a technology that was invented to make food preparation faster. And it did in fact do just that. It did so marvelously. It also changed incredibly our diet. It had a huge impact on what we ate. Go to any supermarket now and you see not just one aisle, but multiple aisles of frozen food. And the microwave as a technology had a lot to do with that, because once it became really easy to heat up food, once it was possible to make dinner in 6 minutes, taking 60 minutes to make dinner felt like an eternity. And so that's one of the many reasons, of course, why our diet has changed so dramatically over the last 50 years. But that's just one example of how a tool is not necessarily neutral. A tool shapes habits, a tool shapes ways of thinking and perceiving of the user of that, of the adopter of that tool. I have here one form of media. This is my great-grandfather's slate that he used to learn how to read and write. This sort of looks like an iPad, I think. But it's probably at least 100 years old. And my great-grandfather took this to school, and he could learn to write letters. It's excellent for facilitating writing, but you can't write a lot with it. The form of this media shapes what can be passed, what kind of information can be passed. Images are harder to pass on this form of media, and moving pictures and multiple images are impossible to pass. Maybe 1, 2, okay, we can do that, I guess. But that's about it. That movie ends pretty quickly. There are other forms of a book is media, is a medium. A book is ideal for passing text across time and space. And a lot of text, a lot of ideas can be fit into a book. A Kindle is another form of media. It constrains media to still images, like this picture of Emily Dickinson, and lots of text. Lots and lots of text, actually. But it's not good for watching movies. It's constrained by certain limitations. And so the user of the Kindle will tend to read more text than images, than watch movies. If the more he or she uses a Kindle as opposed to, say, an iPad. So I'm focusing not so much on these three forms of media that I just showed you just now, but on the media that facilitate the media torrent of images and sound.